up for Dezleen right now. Make some noise for my girl. This is great. Some of you, there was questions submitted, correct? What was the question that we're asking at the end? Online? It was like, there's two. One is how to live for Jesus, and we're going to get to that.
And how to introduce Christ to an interfaith relationship.
How to introduce Christ to an interfaith relationship. That was one of the questions submitted. Right, we're going to chop that up. We're not sure, but we're going to do our best to answer. Right, Des?
Yeah.
So, Dezleen, middle name is?
Star.
Dezleen Star.
Yes.
Welcome to the Real Life Podcast. Appreciate
Thanks.
you. Now, you've done a couple of podcasts so far, no?
Yeah.
How many? You've interviewed and you've been interviewed and you've done the interviewing.
Yeah, one of them was like conversation between me and Ariel. And then the other one was we were interviewing Layla, and that was it. And it's the highest viewed podcast on the channel, guys.
Right,
you know.
they killed it. They actually did kill it.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that's girl power.
For real, 100%. Wow. What happened to the guys? They couldn't do it.
They fell off, man.
Well, who was in the guy podcast? Was it Rylan?
No, that one never. Xavier, what's his name?
Yeah, that one just got canceled.
Rylan's
The
got
show was
scrapped.
totally canceled, bro. Who was
Sean. No, who was it? It was Quinn, Sean, and Jeffrey.
Quinn, Sean, and Jeffrey were the guys?
Yeah.
And they tanked?
They didn't tank. They just didn't do as good.
Wow. Okay. All right.
But it's not a competition.
It's not a
It's
competition.
about,
It is, but it isn't.
Spreading God's word.
Right. So Dezleen has a really interesting life. She has a really interesting story. I think people are interesting. And like I said, we preach, we teach, we do small groups, but we also want to know just, how's God working in your life and have some, it's called real talk, just real talk about just life and God. And so we'll get to the God questions toward the end. But I just want to talk to you about you, girl, because you are very impressive. Your leadership is impressive. And everything you do at Real Life is such a blessing. I see the way you treat people, the way you love people, the way you keep your friendships together, like stuff like that is really, really cool. So I think everyone would benefit from hearing how you live your life. So let's talk about your name for a second, because I like names and they're very interesting. Dezleen, where'd that name come from?
So, my mom grew up coming to Bethlehem Church, our church, and she was friends with Colleen. And so they combined their names. It's just like Desiree. My mom's name is Desiree and Colleen.
Wow.
And
You see, that's so interesting to me.
Yeah, that's what my mom told me.
So
we don't know if it's true, though. Maybe she just made it up.
So Desiree and Colleen.
Desiree
and Colleen, the combo. Okay. Very interesting. And Star, where'd you get Star? Because that's a very unique name.
I'm not sure. I think my mom has it, and my sisters have it too. So maybe just my grandma.
Okay. So talk to me about your family. How many siblings?
So with my mom, I have 2 sisters.
Okay.
They're way younger than me. They're about to be 9 and almost 5. And then I have 3 brothers, but they're from my dad's side.
Okay, so 2 sisters,
And
3 brothers. Okay. How was that growing up in that household?
We wasn't together.
Not really together? Okay.
No, yeah. My brothers were with their mom. And
You're cool to talk about anything, right?
Yeah.
Dezleen said we can talk about anything. So.
Yeah.
All right.
So, and then, my mom, I was an only child for 10 years. So, it was pretty normal. Just being an only child, that was, all I...
So you were an only child for 10 years?
Yep. And I was the first child, too, because my mom had me so young. So, I was the first grandchild, the first everything. First niece.
Wow, so you're getting all the attention, but also you were alone and maybe...
I enjoyed it. I don't know. I feel like people always say, oh, they don't want to have one kid because they're going to be alone. And I'm like, I loved being an only child. I love my siblings, too. Don't get me wrong. Mm-hmm. But my brothers aren't that much younger than me. But I wasn't around them that much. So, we didn't really have, a sibling dynamic. I wasn't really with them that much. So when it went to being at my mom's house, it was just me. I grew up around, a lot of her friends, her teenagers and,
This is
adults
why you're so
and
mature.
Stuff.
This is where the maturity vibes come. You were hanging out with older people. Okay. And you said your mom had you at what age?
17.
Very young. Wow. So any stories behind that? Or
Having me at 17?
Yeah, do you remember them talking about her having you so young or
I remember that basically my mom lived where my grandma lives. Like my parents lived, my dad moved in next door to my mom. And then, yeah, they were best friends and then ended up dating and then had me. And then they got married.
Okay.
And then, they split up.
Okay.
When I was young.
Happened in my life, in my family too.
And then, yeah, I mean, they're cool. Like, it's not like they have problems or anything.
So what age were you when they split up? Because my parents split when I was very, very young. Probably about 5 years old. So how
like
young were
one?
you?
Probably,
like one. So you have no recollection of this?
No.
No memory. Okay.
No.
Okay. Very, very interesting. And so now you are 16, 17? 18, sorry, I forgot. And so now you started coming back to Bethlehem. Like, how did that all transpire?
So I grew up going to church. Our church, like, I grew up going to
So I remember
Bethlehem.
you were like a very little, like maybe 5 years old. I remember that.
And then I'd say around COVID time was like when my family, obviously no one was coming to church. But then when like church opened back up again, we weren't really going. But I would still come to real life occasionally when I remembered or whatever. Like, I wasn't really like into it as I am now. And so then I had a friend I met her in my junior year, and she introduced me to her church basically, which was when I went to church camp. And I started going to their church, and then I was like, why am I going to their church? I could just go to my church. Okay. So then I just started coming back again, and then that's when you kind of just grabbed me and was like, real life leader, here you go.
Snatched you up.
Yeah.
And church camp, I know you had talked to me about, we had some discussions about that. So let's get into that because I want to talk about impactful moments in your life. We all have seasons that we go through. Like, first of all, we got to give it up for the live studio audience, man. Give it up for yourselves. Make some noise. Yes. Thank you, guys. Eating popcorn. You guys look so interested. This is good. So what was I saying again? I'm sorry.
Church camp.
Impactful
moments.
You and I had a really interesting conversation, and I remember it. She's like, you only remembered it because you recorded it. But it was January 12th of 2024. In fact, I'm going to play a little bit of it for the audience. Yeah. Let's pull this up a little second here.
Well, while you pull it up, I'll say something.
Yeah. So
I feel like when, growing up, going to church, I knew God, obviously. Like I had a religious family, like, but I didn't know that, like, how deep your relationship with God could be until I went to church camp. Like, I didn't know that it was deeper than just the surface level that I knew. Like, I didn't know that, like, you could feel God's presence in the way until I went to church camp, and I really felt it, and I was like, whoa.
So, Des, when was the first time? Because I can remember even looking back in my life and having church experiences and remembering going to church. But when was the first time you said you felt God, or like, what does that mean? How did that happen? Was that a prayer service? Was it?
So basically it was like the Spanish churches, they get very very loud, and like it's very powerful. So like there was a moment where they did like an altar call, and my friend was like, oh, let's go. So I went with her, and the pastor was just praying over all of us. And then there was people coming to you and like the team praying for you. And I just broke down. I was just crying so much because I was just, first of all, I don't even speak Spanish.
They're hard to describe, right?
I don't even speak Spanish. Right. And I don't know what they were saying.
But you got bagged by the Holy Spirit.
But yeah, no, it snatched me up real quick. I was crying. I was like,
I love that.
And like, it was kind of scary a little bit too, because there was a man, and he was like walking around. He was a pastor, and every person that he touched would fall. Like, every person that he was praying over would literally fall. And I was like, stay over there. No, I didn't let him touch me.
Right.
I was like, you can stay on that side. I'm good over here.
I'm good.
Yeah, I'm good. You
but he did pray for you.
No.
So he did not. Someone else prayed for you?
Yeah. A woman, I think.
And you just sensed the presence of God.
Yeah. And then also like the worship was really powerful, and I don't speak Spanish, but I was like, they have the words on the screen. I was trying. It just felt like a moment where I felt like I was trying and God was seeing my effort. Moment. Yeah, I felt like God was seeing my effort. Even when I went this most recent time, like, they did an altar call again. Mm-hmm. It wasn't church camp. It was just a convention. Okay. They did an altar call again, and I didn't want to go because I feel like my views are different now. Like, sometimes I don't want like strangers to pray for me.
Right.
And especially if it's in Spanish, I don't know what they're saying. Not that they have bad intentions, but
Right.
I'm just more like aware now. So I just didn't want to go. And like they started singing this song. And I don't know, I just felt like God heard, like, and he agreed with my decision. Like, he was like, I respect your decision, like, and I just broke down crying. And my friend's like, oh, let's go get prayed for. And I was like, I don't need to get prayed for to feel God. Like, I'm feeling God right now, and I'm in my space, and I want to stay in my space. I don't want to go and get prayed over.
Oh, man, that's a whole message right there.
And it just felt like, I don't know, it just felt like a hug. Like, it feels like a hug. Like, it feels like when, for me,
it's kind of hard to
like,
describe those God moments, right?
Yeah, worship is it for me. Like, it's really
being in the presence of God.
Yeah, I love worship.
So how would you describe that to someone trying to talk to them about God, and they're like not into God, they like think it's silly, God's a myth? How would you like open up to a friend of yours and they ask you, hey Dezleen, who's God to you? Like, how do you answer that?
I don't know. That's a hard question.
Okay.
I feel like what's easy for me is inviting my friends to real life.
Okay.
So because I have this space where I'm like, I'm comfortable in this space, I'm sure you'd be comfortable too,
Correct.
And I feel like when you invite people to church, they're like, church.
Right.
I don't know.
Especially if they've never attended church.
And I was like, the way that I got my friends to come was I was like, you guys can play basketball. Come.
Right.
There's basketball hoops. Just come.
They're like, I'm there.
You'll enjoy it. And then they were like, oh, all right. And then they met you and they were like, wow, JG's kind of cool. And then, when you think of church, you think of, so a lot of people have preconceived notions about church.
Correct.
Like they've had bad experiences or they just find it boring. And then you come to a place where that caters to youth,
not
and
boring
it's
at all.
interesting and it's like, it's interactive and you do activities and it's like, they feel more comfortable coming to a place like this than like maybe somewhere where they grew up, And it's just like, there's a lot. There's a lot
of things I love about real life for that reason. And you have definitely been a leader in that area. And so many of the new faces that are part of your life are largely because of your invite. So it's always good to invite someone, especially if you feel like, you want them to experience God. But maybe,
I invite everybody.
Or maybe you just don't know how to explain God to them, but but if God is inside each and every one of us and we're hearing his word, right? So that being in that environment is very powerful.
It's like when for me, it was like when I experienced God, I was like, oh, it's like everybody needs, everybody needs,
it's
but
like just need Jesus.
Yeah, not everybody is into worship though.
Yeah.
So, but it could be something different for other people. Like just a message that really touches your heart or something, And yeah.
So what was your turning point moment? Like let's say as a teenager where you like really got serious? Was that one of these prayer convention things or was it in your bedroom, like at night? Like when did you just like, I need God? Like
it was a combination of things.
Okay.
So my junior year, I went through a little bit of like a rough patch. I wasn't really close. I would pray and stuff, but I never did like Bible study. I never really like took the time, like just praying. I'd say I was like lukewarm, like I was like, okay, like I know God, but I didn't know that it went deeper, like I didn't know that it could go deeper than what I thought was in my head, like what I thought,
Right.
And then I was going through a rough patch and I was like, some like, friend issues.
Now, are we talking about
teenager.
rough patches or we're not talking about
We
rough
could talk
patches?
about it. I mean,
don't need all the details, but what was it, a friendship
Yeah,
thing,
it was
or?
like a friend group thing, like consequences of actions, things
you.
like that, got kicked out.
Got you.
Whatever. And then I feel like in that moment I was like, God, like,
which is a big deal, by the way.
Yeah, like losing all your friends in high school is
that's
a big
deal.
It's a big thing.
Serious.
And especially when you're in high school, you like, it feels like the world is ending. It's like,
it
what?
did.
Like, oh
It
my
did.
gosh,
It
I just
literally
lost
did
all
end.
my friends,
Right.
And
Wow.
I feel like I was praying and I was just like, God, like, please get me out of this situation. Like, I just felt so like alone. But then I found other friends and they helped me for that time being, like that time in which I was going through a rough patch, they were what I needed.
Now, were they pointing you toward God, or you just found friendship?
It was a group. One of the girls through that group is the girl that I met that I went to church camp with.
Okay.
So
we're getting to church camp in a minute, but go ahead.
Yeah. So it was basically like a timeline. It was like, friendship stuff. And then I'd say then she was very on fire for God, and I could see that. Like, I
now,
could
what did you see in her? What does that mean? She was on fire for God.
Like
Was she literally on fire? Like, was she? No, I'm just kidding.
Like, I could tell that she had a relationship with God, and she would talk to me about it, and I was like, I had never met anybody, especially in high school, that's like, oh yeah, I go to church too, you know, like I do things like that too, because nobody really talks about that. And I was like, oh, I like you, like we could definitely really be friends. And then we got closer, and then she invited me to church camp with her. Because so that happened my senior year. Church camp happened my senior year. My junior year in the summer, she went to church camp, and she was telling me about it, and I was like, oh, the next one, sign me up, I want to go.
In there.
And then I went. And
that's when you had an experience.
Yeah, and then after that, I'd say that's when I started doing like Bible study. I started like taking time out. I started, taking time out for God. Like I started doing my Bible study, and I'm not saying it was just smooth sailing from then. It was just like, not. I went to church camp, and then that was it. It wasn't. It definitely wasn't.
Welcome to the rest of your life. It's gonna be that way. And so I'm gonna play a little clip from our discussion, January 12th, 2024, and I was like, who is this girl?
Oh God. Moved by your presence.
Okay, that's not the right one. That's me trying to sing.
Wait.
I think that was Ruben. I don't know who. That was Ruben.
Reading that stuff is so good. Like and especially
we were hanging out in
Bible
front of
study
your life.
recently.
Me,
like, something that I do
Dezleen,
by myself,
and
like,
Ariel.
I just love doing things like that, and then it's like, yeah, we could go to the mall, we could get something to eat, and I'm gonna go home and I'm gonna do my Bible study every night. Right. It's like you already know what I'm gonna be doing.
And then on top of that, what it says too, like when we pray, right? It's incense to God, right? Mm-hmm. So in that aspect, like you say with burning your incense and stuff like that, and you're praying. That's your incenses to God, right? So that's what you're doing in your private.
That's a fact, bro.
Right?
It's a fact.
So when how it says,
I don't know why my voice sounds
sweet
wait till you hear my
your
voice.
praise,
Sounds
right?
Yeah.
So while you
And then
doing
people
that,
don't pray. They don't realize it's like God just wants to. He just wants to hear your voice. He just,
Right.
Yeah,
a lot of my
this
prayers are just like sometimes when I pray, it's
Why am I
like,
talking?
God, I don't feel like praying today.
Yeah.
I'm very, very honest.
or just feel, or you're just indifferent,
Yeah, and you know when you pray and your prayers are fake and you catch yourself.
right?
Yeah.
Oh, praise the Lord! No, stop.
It's like you're on
Stop.
auto.
You stop
autopilot.
You're
It's
drifting.
like, wait, I say
and-
this all the time.
Yeah,
it's the
stop.
same thing I said yesterday and the day before that. The day before
It's
that.
like, be real with God.
But then on top of that too, you have to remember too, like when you repeat, when you're repetitive with something, right?
I'm getting to a
That means
spot.
it's something
I'm
that's
gonna stop it,
bothering
but I just want you to hear
I
it.
saw that too. It was like if you keep thinking about somebody, pray for them because there's a reason why God isn't letting them out of your head.
Right.
And I feel very strongly about that too because there's people that I know are going through things around me, especially because high school it's high school and it's like
high
you
school
go
is
through things
tough,
and then you
man.
don't want to share your personal things that you're going through.
Because everyone has to put up this facade.
Secret life.
And I feel like
Secret life.
this is where you should really find God because it's like God can help you through all that. That love that you're not feeling from your family, like whatever you go through and that you can't tell other people, you can tell God. And it's like I feel like people don't know that. Like
Right.
I was at church camp like the weekend after Thanksgiving, and I was just there and I was just like, this is a feeling. It was so powerful. And I was like, this is a feeling that everybody should feel. Like I just wish and I pray that everybody can experience this at least once in their life so that they know how powerful God is. You know what it is?
Right.
So let's talk about that. That was really good.
He recorded that without my consent, by the way. I didn't know.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Didn't I tell you afterwards?
Yeah, afterwards
Okay.
you sent it to me.
I was just like, this is good. This is podcastable. I'll just have conversations with people sometimes. I'm like, oh, this is going to be a podcast. This is going to be good. So yeah, let's talk about that moment because that was one of the powerful moments that you had there. What was that experience like?
It was during worship, actually. It was during worship, and it felt like everybody in the room was singing. And it felt like even the kids who you don't expect to see at a church camp, they were there, and I could tell that they were worshiping too. And it's like, it was just such a beautiful moment. It's like it felt like everybody in the room was on the same page. Everybody in the room is there for God. Like nothing else is on your mind but God in that moment. It's like, I'm here and I'm worshiping God, Like that's just like the same feeling at the worship night. It's like, that's why we spoke about like,
You did a great job.
put it
at the
nicely,
worship night.
mind your business. Don't worry about the person next to you.
Right.
Don't worry about the person in front of you. Worry
Mind
about
your
yourself
biz.
because this is a moment between you and God,
Right.
And I felt like in that moment I kind of stopped and I like just felt like, wow, it's just so beautiful. Like it really is. It's like I forgot about that, actually. I hadn't thought about that in a long time. But what I said.
So it's a good thing that I saved it, actually.
Yeah. It's a beautiful moment to be in a room with people who are also working towards a relationship with God. And that's what's so important, is having people in your life who are like that. Especially if you are on your walk with God. You need to have people around you who are also on their walk with God. Not saying that that's the only people that you can have around you, but it's important to have.
Which is another thing I love about you, is that you are not always around Christian kids. You're very good with just loving people who don't go to church and whatever. You love them so much. You want them to know God, but you don't just like, oh, I can't hang out with this person. Or,
yeah.
I can't talk to them. They don't go to church. Like, they need to be interacting with people. Like Jesus hung out with what they called the scum, right? He hung out with people who no one else wanted to be with.
But what is important is that people do say that, like, Jesus ate with sinners and things like that. But important thing to point out is that he didn't do what they were doing just because he was sitting with them.
Correct.
And I feel like that's the thing that people say a lot. Like they'll excuse their company for oh, like, Jesus ate at the table with sinners. But it's like, okay, but he didn't sin with them.
Right. He didn't go to the club.
He sat with them, but he didn't sin with them.
Right.
It's a big difference.
That's good. That'll preach. He sat with them. He didn't sin with them. So, okay, I had lost my train of thought there. Oh, so from that moment, that night, what changed? Like, 'cause sometimes we'll have these God moments, and then things shift, and you just see God differently. You just act differently. You just want more of God. Did something happen that night that shifted inside of you, where you said, you know what, I'm going to be reading the Bible more, or I'm going to have... Did anything change in your life that night?
I don't think that night specifically, but I feel like now more is when I'm more serious. Like, I've watched what I say, you know, like, I don't curse. Like, I try to be careful of, like, the things that I do. I'm more mindful because I feel a lot of conviction when I do things like that. Like, if I curse, I'm like, oh, God, I'm so sorry. Or, like, if I'm listening, if, like, Drake comes on and I'm just like, turn it off, like,
Dezleen,
just turn it off.
Drake.
But I was not like that before. Like, I would listen to that music. My whole playlist was secular music, but now my playlist is worship music, a little hint of Olivia Rodrigo, but some worship music, mostly worship music. You know, like, I feel like looking back, I've definitely grown. Even the company that I keep is way different than it was before, and I had to really get used to the fact that some people just aren't meant to be in your life. Some friends just aren't meant to be in your life.
Now, break that down. What does that mean? What does that mean? Like, a friend is not meant to be in your life?
I think that friends are there for...
I agree with you. I'm just...
Yeah. So friends, like, you're in a season of your life. You know, like, you're in seasons of your life. And I feel like for certain seasons, you have certain friends. But for when I move on, like we were talking about earlier today, my friendship with Dezleen, we found each other when we were entering a new season of our life, you know? Yeah. And I feel like that's why our friendship is so beautiful to me, because
she's amazing, by the way.
Yeah, Dezleen is amazing. I love her.
She isn't part of the live studio audience.
But like when we were leaving one season of our life and entering into another one, and that's why I feel like it's so beautiful that we found friendship in each other, because it was like, it's just so beautiful. Like, it's like God knows what he's doing. He may have had us go through what we went through for us to see each other in a new light now, you know? And I just feel like friendship is very important. What was the original question? What did I say? I forgot. But yeah, I feel like losing friendships, I learned that I need to be okay with that. I need to be okay with, first of all, that not everybody around me is going to like me after I've changed. Mm-hmm. Because some people just don't like God. And that's okay. That's fine for you. I mean, but for me, if God is such a big part of my life, and for you, it's not, you're going to see me. You're going to feel like I'm better than you in a sense. I feel like that's what a lot of people think. Right. People may think, oh, she doesn't curse. She thinks she's better than everybody, or she doesn't listen to this. She thinks she doesn't smoke. She doesn't drink. But it's like, that's not, my thought isn't, oh my gosh, I condemn you to hell because you drink and you smoke. Right. It's like, that's your lifestyle. They're just feeling mad guilty. It's not my lifestyle. It's your lifestyle. Right. And I feel like that was a big problem for me, was that I had friendships with people who weren't equally yoked with me. And then it caused strife, because it's like, eternally you're starting to feel a type of way about me, and I'm not even knowing that you're feeling that type of way about me. I don't even
Right.
know that you feel on the low this way about me because
Wow.
I'm not thinking of you in that way. I'm thinking we're friends, we're cool, but on the low, you feel a type of way, you know?
Right.
And I feel like that's why I say
100%.
friendships are for seasons. Not everything is
Yeah.
like forever.
Right.
And sometimes when it comes to breaking off a friendship, it's like, it's as simple as I appreciate our friendship for what it was in the time that it was, but I don't need that friendship in my life anymore.
Boom.
And that's just something that I had to really get used to, because at one point I felt like I didn't have anybody. And then it's like, I had Jaylene, you know? And it's really beautiful because we weren't friends before. And then when it came to like, okay, I feel like, again, my whole world is crumbling, but this time I'm more locked in with God. And it's like, God, I see what you're doing. I don't know why you're doing it. And I feel alone. And then it's like, I look and I'm like, man, I got Jaylene.
Right.
And Jaylene's going through something similar. And it's like, we have each other. And I feel like it's so intentional when God puts friendships in your life. And you need to be careful with who's around you, definitely, because you don't know, even unintentionally, people could be
pulling you away.
Yeah.
So what do you say to the person, teenager, whatever, young adult, doesn't matter, who has a friend in their life that they know they shouldn't really be around that person for that reason? Like, it's a season and you're trying to get closer to God. They're pulling you away from God. They want nothing to do with God, but yet you're still hanging around that person.
God will not remove a friendship from your life if it's meant to be there, and he won't remove something from your life without intending to replace it with something better. And I feel like that's what I also came to realize too, because when I lost my friends, I got close to Layla, and I never imagined that me and Layla would get close. And it's so beautiful.
Same middle name, Star.
Yeah.
My niece.
Yeah, and we got baptized together.
Yeah.
And Justin, you always told me, oh, you would love Layla, you would love Layla. I'm like, Justin
like,
thinks
nah.
everybody's gonna love everybody. So I was like,
I just
yeah,
know who's gonna vibe together.
And then I didn't really think anything of it. And then look, such a beautiful friendship. And it's like, sometimes when you occupy yourself with other people, you don't think that you need anybody else, so you're closing other doors. It's like, but when one door closes, another one opens. And when I lost some friendships that I thought I'd never lose, that I thought I'd be friends with forever, because everybody thinks that you're gonna be friends with everybody forever. Then when that happens, it's like, but look at the beauty that I found in other people, And I feel like that's really
mad inspirational. So let's talk about the baptism real quick. So when you decided to get baptized, what was that process like? Why did you say, I'm getting baptized?
my
Why'd you make that decision?
my best friend at the time, she got baptized in January, and I had a conversation with her mom that day, and she was like, why aren't you baptized? Because she knew I was Christian. She knows I go to church. And I was like, honestly, I don't know. I feel like I'm waiting for like the right time. I
to
feel
be
like
perfect. Waiting to be perfect.
To be sinless and
To be sinless.
an angel. And
Right.
in my head, I'm like, I have to do so
not
much
happening.
before I get baptized,
Right, no.
And she kind of told me, she was like, well, if you're waiting forever, you're never going to get baptized. She was like, if you're waiting for the right moment, it's never going to happen.
Right.
She was like, you get baptized to like make a public declaration that you're following Jesus.
Correct.
And you don't have to be perfect. It's about working towards something.
Right.
Because you're never going to be the perfect Christian.
That's
you're never going to
beautiful.
be the perfect
She
Christian.
said, she worded that very nicely.
Yeah, and yeah, I feel
Working
like that was
towards
like
something.
a turning point for me. I spent a couple months thinking about
I
it.
remember
January,
that night. That was a great night. We have pictures.
January to May. May I got baptized happened to be the same week of my birthday.
Mm-hmm.
I think the 24th, and or like a week before. My birthday's the 30th.
And we took a picture and you were crying like a baby. 'Cause
Yeah, you were crying too.
You were so, we were so filled with
Yeah.
emotion. Yes.
It was a beautiful moment.
It was a beautiful moment.
And
It was
I'm
great.
very happy that because then I considered getting baptized at my friend's church, and my grandfather was like, "Oh no," he was like,
No, you get baptized.
"You've been going to the same church since before you were even born. Your baby
Right.
shower was at Bethlehem Church. You're getting baptized there." And I was like, "Yeah, I mean, yeah, like
that was a powerful moment.
good
And
guidance, to have guidance in your life too. Because if not, I would have got baptized in a Spanish church that I don't even know anybody or
it's
what they're
better
even
here
saying."
where like there's family and where
Yeah.
you have
And,
your roots down, and so hopefully we'll have another baptism soon. I'm not sure when. So this has been great. Looks like I don't want to wrap it up, but we're gonna have to wrap it up soon. I want to get to the questions that a couple of questions came in from IG. Right, we took some was it a poll or something like that? And what were the two questions, Des? One was
of
how to
them
live
was,
for God.
Yeah, how to keep
That's
Christ
what-
at the center of your life.
That's what all of you voted that you wanted to know.
And then the
how to-
other one was how to introduce Christ into an interfaith relationship.
So how do you do that? Let's talk about the first one, because that one that was like 65%. It was really high. How do you live for Christ? That was the question in your personal life. What do you do practically to live for God, other than the standard I go to church?
So we were talking about this earlier. I journal now. I journal to God, and sometimes it's in the morning, sometimes it's night, sometimes I forget.
Okay.
But I found that sometimes when I pray, I get distracted. So it's like I'll be praying and then I'll be like, oh yeah, like that food was really good earlier, or like, you know, like just like random things like, oh, I need to buy this shirt or like whatever. And then but when I'm journaling, it's like I put my worship music on.
Nice.
You know, I sit down and I intentionally sit there and I journal. But when you're praying, it's like it's in your head and you're like, you get distracted, and God deserves more than just your afterthought. Like you're distracted when I remember to pray. But it became a routine that I'm like, I'm journaling. And then now I haven't been doing it as much as I should be. Okay. And I can admit that I haven't, like, I want to.
So you feel like journaling was part of like a real spiritual process for you, as far as you like getting closer to Jesus?
Yes. Want to know why? Because when I was telling you this, I don't like to read back in my journal, but I was reading the beginning and I was like, God answered those prayers and I forgot. I forgot that I prayed for those things. I forgot that I felt that way. And now I don't feel that way anymore. And in the moment, it's like, when will I stop feeling like this? When will I stop feeling lonely? When will I stop whatever? And then when you look back, you're like, wow, I haven't felt that way in so long. And I feel like that's what I like about journaling, is that I can look back and I can be like, well, I thought I would never not feel that way, and now I'm fine.
And you can see like, wow, God answered that prayer. God answered that prayer in my life. God did this for me. He did that for me. So, and then when do you journal? Do you journal what, daily, weekly, morning, night?
I try to do it every day.
Because journaling is hard for me. I want to journal with all my life. I just never do it. I feel like I'm too busy. I don't have the time.
I really like it. I do it before bed, but if I know I'm going to get home late, I'll try to do it in the morning.
And how much time does it take you to journal?
It depends.
And are you writing your prayers? Are you like writing
like
Dear like God? Some people like Dear God.
No, yeah, Dear God.
Oh, wow, that's cool.
Sometimes I'll be like, how are you? How's your day going?
I love that.
And then I'll get into like, okay, you know what happened today?
Just pour your soul out.
No, not like that. It's more like I pray for things.
Okay.
Not like, but sometimes like I'll just say how I feel, like, oh, I feel like this, you know, whatever. Or sometimes, like the other day, something was happening and I was like, oh, I need to write this real quick. And I was like, Dear God, I pray that this changes. And I was leaving. I was about to leave my house. And I was just like, God, I pray for this specific thing. And I didn't even journal for that long. I just wrote it down so that I could feel like, I feel like that's how I know that God is really hearing me.
Getting it off your chest and off your spirit. Do you ever feel like you're writing things down and like somebody might read your personal stuff?
No.
I feel like that. I think
you're trying to give me a fear?
No, I think that's what keeps me from journaling. I don't want to put anything too personal in there.
I put everything.
That's
literally everything.
That's good.
And sometimes I take it out with me, and then I'm like, imagine really I lose it, but if someone finds it,
right,
they're not gonna know who I am.
Right, exactly.
So it's like, wow, this girl.
So journaling is part of your spiritual.
Yes.
How you live for Jesus.
Reading my Bible.
Your spiritual disciplines.
Yeah, which I have not. I have been, but not as regular as it was. So before, my grandma got me a year in the Bible, which is like, it gives you a Bible. It gives you like in a week what Bible verses to read, and then like a big lesson to it, basically. And I was doing that, and then I went on vacation, and then I lost my flow. And then
it happens.
And then I tried to get back into it, and then I went away again, and then now I'm like back and
get back on track.
It's hard to get back into the flow, because I was doing so good every day. Before I left my house, I was journaling, or like doing my Bible study. But then sometimes it's hard to like slip out of that flow that you have, especially because I'm in college, school started, and then I was like, oh, like I leave my house from like 8 a.m. until like whatever time I get home.
Yeah, it's hard to find the time. So talk about college real quick. Your major is?
Psychology.
Yeah,
I'm almost done.
Okay. Was that your first choice?
Psychology?
Yeah.
Criminal justice was my first choice.
Right. So, and why did you change it?
I don't know, because I think I wanted to be a criminal psychologist, and I thought that criminal justice would be the better way to go about it. But then I was like, then I'm not learning any psychology. Okay. I love learning psychology. Okay. It's really cool.
You're interested in the mind. I love anything that has to do with the mind and the brain and all that stuff. And you know, I've said it several times in some of our messages, that science is now recently caught up with the fact that your body is only 3% of you. like your physical body is 97% of you is unseen. It's your mind, it's your spirit. We know it as your spirit, your soul. I just think that's kind of fascinating that all of a sudden now science caught up to that. But yeah, and then we put so much effort into our bodies, right? Our physical appearance, our looks, and it's
soul,
literally you're putting 100% into the 3%. Like, and we're ignoring our entire soul and spirit, and then we wonder why, you know, we feel disconnected, or we're depressed all the time, or we feel like we don't know God. You're ignoring your spirit, which God made to connect with him. So let's get to the final question, and we're going to wrap it up. The other question was someone submitted, which was a really interesting question, which we only have 3 minutes to answer, but we'll do the best we can, was about relationships, correct?
Yeah.
Someone submitted the question. We're not going to say the name, but the question was,
how do you introduce Christ to an interfaith relationship?
How do you introduce Christ to an interfaith? It's a great question.
No, it's a beautiful question.
How would you do that?
How would you do that?
Well, I'm assuming that the person is talking about a
current relationship,
boyfriend, girlfriend relationship. And I'm assuming that this person is involved with someone who either does not know God or does not go to church. I'm not really sure. Or just of a different faith.
Religion.
Right,
yeah.
a different religion. And I think the best way to do that is introduce them, you know, like because a lot of people don't know they don't know, like, they know a little bit about Christianity. They may not know details. So tell them who Jesus is. Tell them why Jesus died for them. Tell them that Jesus is different from every other major religion. Tell them that Jesus is historically, hands down, like the greatest leader that ever lived. Like, tell them who Jesus is to you personally, but don't try to convince them. Like, you can't.
Yeah,
like,
because you don't want somebody's religion to be based on you.
Right.
Like, their relationship with God to only be when they're on good terms with you, or like just for you. That's not the right way to go about it.
I don't know how deep the person is involved with the other person, but I mean, the best thing to do, I think, is just tell them who Jesus is to you personally. And I would say also be very careful if that person is, if Jesus doesn't mean the same thing to that person that he means to you.
Yeah.
That is
just don't do it.
I would. Yeah. Just scripturally, we're not supposed to, and it's just not wise to continue it's going to cause all types of issues as that relationship gets closer, married, kids, and it's oil and water. So that would be anything you want to add to that. So love people, right? We have to love people. And so thank you, Dezleen. This was hands down, I'm calling it the best one ever. That's it. I'm calling it the best interview podcast. Until the next one, thank you for the give it up, live studio audience. Give it up for yourselves. Make some noise. This is a great night, and you made it easy. You're a great interview. Thank you for being a part of real life and just sharing all your personal journey and your walk with God and the disciplines in your life. This is great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dezleen Star. All right, real life. We'll see you on the next one.